Hey guys, this week's video is dedicated to the complete recovery of Masha Bas Batsheva. Transitions are difficult, and in life we go through them. And they're especially difficult if you're heading from a place, you're transitioning from a place where you were very comfortable into something that is very unknown and the challenges that lay ahead. Or that the times ahead are going to be difficult. You can be coming out of a relationship, transitioning from a job, something that you were used to, you were coming out of school, something that you were used to, and you're transitioning into something that is very unknown. Or it's going to be difficult, a very difficult time. How do we get through it? How do we stay steady and make sure we maintain through these difficult times? This week's Torah portion, Parsha Shemot, the Jewish nation transitions from a place of freedom and prosperity into one of the most challenging times in Jewish history, to exile, enslavement, hardship. How are they going to maintain themselves? How are they going to get through this? And the name of the Torah portion, Parsha Shemot, lends itself to what they did. Shemot means names. These were the names of the Jewish people that came down into Egypt. Now we already know who came down to Egypt. Why does the Torah list it again? And the commentaries say it's because these were the Hebrew names that they came down to Egypt with, and this is the Hebrew names that they left Egypt with. The Jewish people maintained their identity even through the most difficult times. How? They maintained their Jewish names, their language, their style of clothing. The Jewish people maintained their identity, their core Jewish identity, even through the most difficult times. This was their anchor. This is what they held on to as they went through this exile. I want to share a story with you that I heard just the other day. That's an amazing story about having an anchor in difficult times. There was a young Jewish couple, Sam and Leah Axe, that lived in Poland, and they decided in 1910 they were going to emigrate to Norfolk, Virginia. Leah was pregnant at the time, and her parents were worried that a cross-Atlantic journey would be too difficult. So Sam went ahead to set up things in Norfolk, Virginia, and after the baby was born, she would follow. In April of 1912, with a 6-month-old baby, she booked her ship on the Titanic. And as we all know, a few days into the trip, it hits an iceberg, it starts to sink. Leah is with her small little baby, Fischl, and they're in the third cabin with all the other immigrants. And there's only enough lifeboats for maybe half the people on the ship. And the order goes out, women and children first. So she starts pushing to the front with her little baby to get off. But there's a gate that is locked and she can't get through, they can't get out. She's pushing against the gate, and finally one of the people on the ship climbs over the gate, schleps her out with her baby, and she makes it to the deck. There she is waiting on the deck to get into one of the lifeboats, and it's total chaos. And there's a person there, a man, who keeps trying to jump onto one of the lifeboats. And the people keep dragging him off, saying, no, women and children first. And he's losing his mind. He doesn't want to lose his life. And in a moment of madness, he runs up to Leah Axe. And he says, women and children first. And he grabs the baby and throws it overboard. And she shrieks. And everybody jumps on him, but it's too late. The baby's already gone. Then it comes time for her to board, and she says, I'm not leaving without my baby. And they push her on, screaming and crying, and say, you have to save yourself. You can't go down with the ship. And she's on the lifeboat crying, and they drift for hours until they're picked up by the ship Carpathia, which was passing by, and picked up many, many of the survivors. And on the deck of that ship, she sees a lady holding a baby that looks just like her son Fischl. And she runs over, and the baby, recognizing its mother, cries out and tries reaching out to the mother. And the lady says, no, this is not your baby. This was sent to me from God. She says, I was in the lifeboat and a baby came flying right into my lap. This is a message that I must take care of this baby. I have no way of knowing that this child is yours. And soon everybody's taking sides and a huge fight breaks out. Whose child is this? And the captain of the Carpathia calls them to his chambers, and he's going to decide, like a modern day King Solomon, who the child belongs to. And while they're in his chambers, Leah suddenly remembers, I can prove that this child is mine. We're Jewish. He is circumcised. In those days in Eastern Europe, it was very rare for Gentiles to be circumcised. Only Jewish people were. And the captain said, let's check. And they checked, yes, circumcised. And he decided this child belongs to Leah Axe. And they docked, and they were reunited with their family. And this is the story of Fischl. He grew up, he lived in Philip. He lived in Norfolk for many years, and he had a little sister that was born, and his mother named him Sarah Carpathia Axe. because she was so grateful for the ship that had saved her life as well as reuniting her with her child. What do we see from the story? This was their anchor. Through the most chaotic, difficult moment in their life, when everything seemed dark, when everything seemed bleak, this was the anchor that got them through it. Their identity, their core identity as Jews. So this is a story that tells us the same thing. We have to have, we live in very uncertain times. We keep thinking that we're coming out of something only to be told, no, there are dark times ahead. It's very chaotic, very turbulent. Do we have an anchor? Do we have something to hold on to get us through it? We have to make sure that we are strong, that we have something that we can hold on to get us through these most difficult times. Our core identity will hold us on and keep us strong. Shabbat Shalom.